some more breaking inputs lined up for you at this point in time. As tensions escalate in West Asia, there are strikes that are being witnessed in Lebanon as well. These are Israeli strikes that we are talking about. Iran has decided to once again close the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump has warned Iran again. An orange glow lit up the Beirut skyline on Wednesday evening as Israel continued its strikes on the Lebanese capital. This is the latest update that we are getting for you. Amita, my colleague, is joining us live right now for more on the war. Amita, over to you.
Thanks, Hina, for that, because the continuous war updates are also being tracked right here on Times Now, and this seems to be the situation what we are now looking at. As the pictures that has been coming in, the orange glow that seems to have been lighting up the Beirut skyline is the strikes that has been continuing on part of Israel, because Israel is of the opinion that as far as Hezbollah targets in Lebanon is concerned, it is not part of that 2-week truce that has been announced by President Trump. In fact, when it comes to continuous strikes and strikes that has been going on deep within, when it comes to in Beirut, we are talking about commercial and residential areas as well. According to international media reports, there has been significant damage that has been incurred in these specific areas. But as far as Israel is concerned, they are continuing with their fight as far against Iranian proxies is concerned, and Hezbollah seems to be the very target that Israel now seems to be carrying out its strikes. Now, as far as Lebanon being part of this truce, this is something that is also now being denied on part of the United States of America, which says and believes that it was nothing as far as when it comes to only on the Iranian front that they had agreed on this 2-week truce. However, Lebanon was not a part of it. And as far as Israel is concerned, it considers Hezbollah as a legitimate war target. And as far as deep inside, when it comes to Beirut, we are looking at these strikes that continue on part of Israel. We have Srinjoy who is joining us right now. Srinjoy, the deal is concerned because this 2-week truce call, we are looking at countries having their own versions. And in fact, when it comes to retaliation, that has also been seen on part of Iran already. But Israel seems to be now digging in its heels.
Two days ago, there was this air of optimism, but that seems to be ebbing away very quickly, because let's see what's happened so far. The Israelis have hit southern Lebanon and Beirut, more importantly, believing that the Hezbollah are entrenched there. So that itself is a problem. Now, Israel says that this ceasefire does not include Lebanon. So fine, that's one. Iran believes that the Hezbollah, its friends, should not be targeted. That's really the second problem. Third, you have President Trump, and President Trump has spoken about two things, saying no nuclear. That's one, which means that Iran should not enrich its uranium. Already 50–60% done, 400 kilos of it. We don't know where it is, and then should not move towards a nuclear weapon. Now, Iran has never said it wanted to have a nuclear weapon. That's the first thing. Secondly, President Trump says the Strait of Hormuz will be open. Now, Iran has discovered, courtesy President Trump actually in some ways, that the Strait of Hormuz is a serious weapon. Now, if it's a serious weapon, they can use it whenever they wish to. Now, because of the strikes in Lebanon by the Israelis on the Hezbollah, the Iranians are saying, well, we can close the Strait of Hormuz. And everybody knows how much disorder it will create in the world, particularly the oil world.
Yes. Well, because right after, when it comes to this 2-week truce that has been announced, there has been an immediate impact as far as crude prices is concerned. And for the first time in weeks, we are looking at, as far as the per dollar mark is concerned, it has gone below $100 mark. Let's in the meantime also talk about what the United States has been saying. The White House press secretary has come out to clarify that what this truce is all about, and has now repeated and reiterated exactly what Vice President Vance has also said. Lebanon is not part of the truce.
Would President Trump like to see Lebanon included in this peace deal? As you know, there have been increased Israeli strikes on Lebanon today with dozens of casualties there.
Sure. Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. That has been relayed to all parties involved in the ceasefire. As you know, Prime Minister Netanyahu put out a statement last night in support of the ceasefire, in support of the United States' efforts, and he's also assured the president they'll continue to be a helpful partner throughout the course of the next 2 weeks.
So let's talk about as far as the ceasefire choke points are concerned, especially when it comes to Lebanon. The country is holding different versions altogether. One by one, let's take a look. Exactly when it comes to the US, because it believes that it is separate from the conflict, and as far as also asking Iran to stop backing its proxies, which is the Hezbollah in this case, based in Lebanon. And also when it comes to reducing significantly when it comes to Iran's influence, because for Iran, it has now been seeking as far as a certain shield or protection for Hezbollah is concerned, and as far as their proxies is concerned, this has been one of the demands that Iran has been keeping forward to halt all of the Israeli strikes of them. And Hezbollah, this is something what Iran considers is a legitimate resistance as their right. But when it comes to the US, near zero enrichment capability and ending nuclear weapons pathway, that seems to be exactly when it comes to the objective that President Trump in his latest post and Vice President J.D. Vance has been saying. Listen in.
He said that there are a few points of disagreement before the negotiation. Well, that must mean that there's a lot of points of agreement, because there's a 15-point plan floating around. There's a 10-point plan floating around. If he's frustrated about 3 issues, that actually means that there's a lot of agreement. That's point number 1. Point number 2, to respond to each of those issues, and I read it very closely. Let me just say this. I actually wonder how good he is at understanding English, because there are things that he said that frankly didn't make sense in the context of the negotiations that we've had. But to address the 3 points, first of all, he talked about an attack that had allegedly happened on Iran and how that was a violation of the ceasefire. Ceasefires are always messy. An hour after the president announced the ceasefire, the Iranians launched a bunch of missiles. Then the Israelis responded. Then some of the Gulf Arab states responded. This is the nature of a ceasefire. No ceasefire ever goes without a little bit of choppiness.
So what really happens in this so-called Islamabad talks, because as far as when it comes to India is concerned, it has been asking all of them, when it comes to the Indian residents, particularly in Iran, as far as this advisory that has now been issued, and this is the latest advisory that India is now issuing as far as for the seafarers is concerned. This is the DG Shipping that has now issued an urgent advisory, and this is the Directorate General of Shipping which has now issued the circular. Latest now what is being said, providing an urgent safety advisory for Indian seafarers in and around Iranian waters, because what is being said that the threat is very much there and persistent, and in the view of the prevailing security situation, seafarers have now been advised to remain indoors, avoid sensitive locations, and also coordinate movements with the embassies of India. And this is the advisory coming in, whereafter Indian nationals, especially residing in Iran, have been asked to also leave the country. We'll be getting you more on that back after a short break. The war updates continue on Times Now.